All right, welcome back to another episode of Phoenix Edge. This is an RPG and gaming news podcast. My name is Hat.
And I am Eric.
And I am Stan.
And today we are going to be talking about some more Fire Emblem 3 Houses thoughts. Then we're going to be segueing that into the recent E3 / ESA data doxing leak that broke recently. And then the Outer Worlds has been confirmed for Switch. So we got some details surrounding that we're going to talk about. And then one of our Discord and members and viewers of the YouTube channel says, for a question for us today, it says, any favorite strategy RPGs, and what about the mechanics made you enjoy the gameplay? Also, if you have any history with the Fire Emblem series, any favorite entries and why, and how's Three Houses comparing? So there's just kind of a rundown of what we're going to be talking about today. All right, guys, a little sick, so I'm a little out of it today, but I think it's still going to be a pretty good episode. Something going on weird with the opening video. It only, you guys can't see it, but like the video only showed in like the right hand corner, like half of it anyways, or the half of the screen length. It was really strange. I think I just need to stretch it out. So what are you going to do? We're streaming. But anyways, so Eric, last week I wasn't able to be here, but you kind of gave us all your thoughts with Fire Emblem 3 Houses. And before I just jump into kind of my thoughts thus far, I'm about 30 hours in. Is there anything you want to like add on top of that, or anything that kind of shifted your opinion from last week?
You're 30 hours into the game?
Yes.
You're ahead of me.
Okay.
You're ahead of me very much. But, I mean, no, my opinion really hasn't changed. And it might, my thoughts might lead into what our last topic is. But I'm kind of someone that likes the in and out battles type of deal. And I give exceptions sometimes to like games like Tactics Ogre and Final Fantasy Tactics, though their battles are long also, but the payoff is a lot better because the transition to pivotal parts of the story are right after. And I feel like with something like Fire Emblem 3 Houses, while it's not a bad system by any means, but in my own personal taste, it's hard to take in the entire game when there's a lot of small menial stuff I have to do to get to the main parts of the story. And it's not that bad. It's just, as someone who really wants to get into the heart of the story, I feel like it's just held back a lot by a lot of stuff, menial tasks that you have to do before it. So at this point, I've pretty much been hitting the auto instruct button to get to parts of the story as fast as I can and do the stuff that's necessary. Like, I'm stopping by and doing like the small side quests you do within the monastery because they're not hard and they're quick to do. But it's still a good game. It's just something that it's a little slower for me than other games, just because of the nature of it. I was kind of the same way with Persona 4 when that came out, and I never finished Persona 5. And I took it in short spurts because there's a lot of small stuff you have to do in between getting the dungeon content and stuff like that. But like I said, none of it's bad. It's just the Persona aspects are just a little weighing in on me.
Here's the thing that I've noticed, and well, before I say that, I'll just say quickly, I'm enjoying this game a lot more than I thought I would. So let me just start off by saying that, like, I'm really liking the game. I'm really liking it a lot. I wouldn't have put as much time as I have since I bought it. I'm about 30 hours in, and I wouldn't have put that much time in thus far if I hadn't been enjoying it. But you bring up that Persona 4 aspect, and it's weird because Persona 4 I had a difficult time with, and I think that the reason I had a difficult time with it is because it stressed like the social links and like the going to school and doing all the side stuff. I feel like that game stressed that stuff equally as much as a story. Whereas in this game, it feels maybe like 25%, where like, okay, like if you don't do that stuff, you're not really getting the full experience. but at the same time, it's not as important. So when I was playing Persona 4, I would get really exhausted going to basketball practice, and I was on the drama club, and like I was like, dude, I do not care about any of this stuff, right?
Yeah.
But I just did not want to keep doing that stuff. I just wanted to get back to the story, but I felt like I was missing something if I did not do that stuff. Whereas in Fire Emblem Three Houses, it's not quite as bad. Like I feel like it's if you want to delve into that stuff, it's there and it is decently enjoyable to, it ranges depending on, what you involve yourself in, but some of it's pretty fun. But sometimes when I just want to progress the story, I'm just like, okay, I don't mind missing this little social link. I don't mind. And it's I feel like it's a little bit better balanced for me. I'm not trying to say that this game's better than Persona 4 or anything like that, because I know at this point Persona 4 is some of people's most cherished game. But for me personally, I like the way that Fire Emblem Three Houses is kind of handling those social links and like the balancing of it. Now, granted, I am not like I haven't played like all 16 Fire Emblem games, so it's not like I'm some kind of Fire Emblem expert. So maybe I'm coming at this from a different angle, but I've really liked the game thus far. I do have some things I don't like about it and some things I do like. I think just getting some of the stuff I don't like. Um, and this is something you brought up, Eric, when you choose to explore the monastery, because basically, give you a quick rundown for people that have not played the game. You get a little calendar, and every weekend you get some time off, and you can choose to either run around the monastery or you can go battle, or there's some other stuff you can do sometimes. And if you choose to explore the monastery, there's going to be side quests that you can do, and there's going to be other, little social link activities you can do. And then there's also going to be just talking to the various members in this world. And all that stuff's really, really good. But when I do choose to explore the monastery, I feel really obligated to just talk to everyone. Now that's different from like I don't always feel obligated to choose to explore the monastery. I do battle more than I choose to explore. But when I do explore the monastery, like I just feel like I'm supposed to talk to every single person on the entire, like all the maps. And even though you can fast travel, that just sometimes just takes forever to like talk to every single person. But sometimes there's someone who has some like dialogue that I'm like, well, I'm glad I talked to you. And so that part, I feel like they could have done it a little bit better.
I will give. I mean, if I want to be on the positive side,
Yeah.
The combat's great. I mean, I really enjoy the combat, and I like
Mhm.
the class systems that you can upgrade them to. That aspect is really nice, and the the story is pretty good. I mean, from when, like I said, like I don't like when I have to keep going through menial stuff all the time to get to that point. But when I do get to that point, I enjoyed the story aspects. I enjoyed it a lot more than I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be like some, generic type of thing. But I was surprised on the themes and everything. Like the writing's not spectacular, but at the same time, it's like the story and themes of it are good, or like what's going on in the story is really cool.
Yeah.
The one thing I really wish they brought to this game, and I'm disappointed they didn't, because I really thought they were going to, with seeing how your character can run around in an environment,
Sure.
was I thought they were going to bring back explorable dungeons from Fire Emblem Echoes,
Mm.
the game that came out before this.
Yeah.
And that would have been really awesome. They have the setup and everything for it, but
It is.
of course I didn't use it.
Yeah. It's kind of weird because it's almost deceiving the way this game slowly unravels. And like with the map, with the monastery, it starts you off with only being able to explore like a very small portion of it. And then, as the months progress, you get to explore more and more and more and more. And the place keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And so it leaves you feeling like, everything's very large. But after a while, you start to realize this is kind of small. But granted, I'm not, I could conceivably still only be a third through the game, but Yeah, having some more options to explore some of the dungeons, like you mentioned, would have been really, really cool. I mean, honestly though, like the presentation's top notch. I find the animation's really good. The music for the most part's really good. I think
Do
what I,
they
oh,
still use the yeah, I was wondering if you could tell me this. Is do they keep using the same battle theme up to your point? Because I like that battle theme they have,
dude, it's
and
so catchy.
it is. It's very catchy, and I really like it. But do they have more? Just like
I've
more normal battle themes, not like I know there's like those
I
important
think
battle.
that's the nor yeah, so from what I've noticed, that main battle theme that you're talking about, I've noticed that is the battle theme that's used in most battles that you would choose to fight, right? But then, for some of the story-focused battles, they'll use some different music. So, but yeah, it is kind of repetitive in that, they don't have more options, I guess, especially since these battles sometimes take a really long time to get through. Um, if you're trying to be strategic with how you position your people, and you're not trying to have like one character that's level 50 and everyone else is like level 5, right? You're trying to get everyone to level up. The battles can take a long time. So, but yeah. But one thing I do really like about this game that I'm surprised about is um all my cast of characters, because I chose the Black Eagle or whatever house
Yeah,
eagle.
right.
Is that what you chose too?
Yeah, that's what I chose. Also, the
Yeah,
red.
dude, I was stressing out about what house I was going to pick, and I was like, you know what, I'm just going to pick the one that I want to pick, and that's the one I picked. So so far I'm glad, because my two favorite characters thus far is Edelgard, which is like the princess type character, and then Rhea, who's like the head of the monastery or church. The reason I like Edelgard, and I'm not going to get into spoilers or anything, but in this world of three houses, there's this idea that if you're going to rule your country or whatever, it doesn't matter who you are, nobility or you're a commoner. If you go to this school, then you are basically level with everyone else. There's no status. So you as the professor are literally teaching this person that's going to be the queen, right? And yet you're sticking her through all these battles where she could get killed and stuff. And most of the battles, they say if she dies, like the game's over. So it's not like, you know, uh, they don't go fully through with that in the story. But it's really interesting, that idea of having somebody that's that high up in the nobility chain being, able to talk with and, get to know people that are essentially like peasants. It's very, very interesting. If you click the menu in the game during exploring the monastery, you can click support, and it has all these story sequences where you see characters interacting. And she has some really good scenes with some of the other people in the party that like really makes her really, really interesting. So I like her on that front. And then Rhea, who's like the head of the monastery of the church, I find her really, really interesting because she comes across as so nice, but then like she'll do stuff that's like, I'm just like, I don't know. That seems kind of evil. But it's always in this like gray area where like maybe it's not evil, but I kind of feel like I wouldn't have done that. And then she'll look
Borderline
back,
evil, right?
yeah, and then she'll look at you and smile, and you're like, I
Maybe
don't
it'll
know.
be like I don't know, Fates, where it's all a big spooky dragon at the end.
Well, I hope not. But it's just like, I don't know. I don't know how to feel about her. I'm like, I don't quite trust you. So there's this like element with that, with the characters, that I really like. And when you go to talk to everyone else in your party and such, they all have such distinct personalities, and they give a different take on the world. And that's like another thing I like with this game, is just like how gently they introduce the world to you, instead of toppling you over the head with like 80 pages of back history with, in 1200 King Jojo took over. Like, they don't really do that too much. It's just like, okay, here's a battle coming up, here's what you need to know about the battle, here's kind of a quick background of that, and then afterwards they'll feed you a little bit more information. You can talk to some other NPCs and kind of flesh out the world, but they're not like beating you over the head with like pages and pages of just this lore. It's a very it feeds it to you in a very well paced manner. So,
And you don't need it to understand the main story either, because the main story is still very in its very own contained space. So, like, if you missed out on some lore or something, like it's good if you want to enrich yourself in the world's lore, but
Yeah.
you're not going to lose sight of what the main story is in the game.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Like, it's very well balanced to a point where you can almost choose to play it how you want. I won't say you can't avoid the monastery portions altogether. That unfortunately sometimes you do have to do, and for some people they won't enjoy that. But um, it's not that bad. As I have noticed that usually it takes me about a half hour to like really get in the groove of playing the game, and as long as I can get through that first half hour, I'll be in, for like a 2.5 hours or a longer stretch of time. But I do get really, really tired of, like, for example, one of like the side quests. Most of the side quests are just dumb. Like, hey, go deliver this. Hey, go bring this to this person. They have all these like little dumb little things like, hey, you found all these lost items. Now go ask everyone in the game if if this is theirs. And I guess what you're supposed to do is read the description, and it says something like, for people that like cookies, and then you're supposed to guess by which character would like cookies. No, like I just choose every single item. I'm like, okay, you didn't, none of these are yours. Okay, next person. None of these are yours. Okay, next person. And it's just like, maybe that's not the way you're supposed to play it, but like those types of like quests just eat me alive. Like I'm just like,
It's like
cannot wait to get past this part. And then we get back into the regular game, and I'm like, this is awesome. I'm enjoying this.
we're the professor. Why are we working for the affection of the students? Why isn't the other way around?
I know, right? Wait, I have to bring this up. For the persona type elements, there's this really weird like social link thing that gets offered sometimes. I can do it anytime I want now.
Tea party.
Yes. The tea time is so freaking awkward. Like, have you done it yet?
Yeah, I
It's
picked
awkward.
Dorothea. I picked Dorothea as the first one. And the immediate question I have is like, so do you have any future guy in your life? I'm like, whoa, hey, Violet, you want to take it easy, take it a little slow. Like you're immediately trying to get into trying to get into her pants or something. It's like it's a tea party. Just have a nice conversation, and then you can slowly work your way into getting more dates. It's like no.
Yeah, so
I think it's pretty odd to begin with. I think ultimately, like, it's good to be like friends with like like your teachers and such, but there still needs to be like a professional relationship with your students. Like it's fun to go out and do like maybe have a night at the bar with something like to celebrate something.
right.
But I mean, how often do you see teachers get very intimate with their students? It's
Well, and the thing about it is basically, okay, so the first time I think that I came across a tea time is we got to a day of the calendar, and it was I'm trying to remember her name. I'm drawing a blank, but it was so and so's birthday. Do you want to buy her flowers, or do you want to take her to tea time? And I was like, okay, let me try this tea time because I've never tried it before. So you're sitting there, and it's got like this thing will come up and it'll say, okay, laugh, and then you'll press Y for laugh, and then like you'll laugh or something, and then she'll laugh, and then it'll be like, ask her a question, and you ask her a question, but she doesn't actually answer the question. It's just like she liked the question, but like she doesn't actually respond most of the time. Occasionally you'll get like a little like sentence like, oh yeah, I really wish I went to the ocean or something. But like, yeah, so far I've never actually learned anything more about it, which is very weird because most of the time you learn stuff about these characters, but in tea time, it's all about just like getting like emotional responses. And then like if you get a perfect tea time, afterwards you can like extend the conversation. But at that point it just keeps pressing like endless prompts like tell a joke X. Okay, now like compliment Y. Tell a joke X, but you're not actually telling a joke. It's just like she'll just laugh when you tell a joke. And like I did it one time for like 2 minutes because I thought the first time I did it, I thought like it was going to be like a mini game, and soon they would post my score and tell me, okay, you got like a perfect score. But I really think this thing just keeps going on for like an hour and a half if you wanted to. And eventually, I was just like, okay, we're done. We're done with tea time. But it was very very weird.
It is very weird. I will say that. I mean, I've done it a few times. Like, I got that prompt too. It's like it's his birthday, her birthday. You want to go out for tea time? I'm like, I don't recognize the name, but I assumed it was someone in mine. I was like, yeah, okay. Then like someone from the other team. It's like I'm having tea time with them. I'm like, which character is this again? Uh, God, I can't remember.
But the thing is, that stuff's optional, right? So I've done tea time twice just to see if maybe I got a bad experience the first time, and I had the same exact experience the second time. So whenever I get that birthday prompt again, I'm just like, okay, I'm buying you flowers.
Well, the overall point to all that stuff is beneficial to your character stat growth in battle.
Yeah, it all ties together.
Yeah, what I wonder is how much does it affect? Like, if I do like the bare minimum, how much harder is it on me? Because I've been playing on normal mode, and I haven't had any real conflict. Now, granted, I'm like on chapter 5
Yeah,
right now, so
what
I'm not that far in, but so far I've not come across anything I would really consider hard.
one thing that one thing I've noticed with the battle system because I'm playing it on normal as well with permadeath on, and I do wish it won't let me change it to hard. I do kind of wish I could change it to hard, but at the same time, it's not that the battles are easy because I have had 2 instances where a character died and I had to rewind to go back. The reason my characters died those 2 times was just because I was trying to like get through the battle really quickly. So I was just being way too aggressive. And like because I did that, I put my character in a spot where like 6 dudes could like gang up on that one character. And like I said, it's only happened twice, but if I'm cautious and I just, you know, approach a little bit of caution, I can pretty much come out of any battle unscathed. It's still really, really fun because of how many rewards the game gives you. Like, you have so many different like stats that just constantly level up, and it makes you feel like you're progressing. So it's cool on that front. But yeah, I do wish I had chosen hard. Apparently, there's going to be some kind of lunatic mode, which that might be an interesting way to play. But to your first comment, if you had done all the social links and stuff the bare minimum, what would be the difference? I haven't tried that necessarily, but I have tried cutting down on, going to the cafeteria and like making a meal and stuff. And I did notice that, when it came time to level up my characters, like teach them, they had less enthusiasm, basically enthusiasm points. And so I wasn't able to progress them as much as I wanted to. And I have noticed other things like less critical hits in the next battle and stuff like that. But I don't think it's really going to change the game in like a really substantive way. Because there's ways you can boost enthusiasm without having to do all that other stuff. So I don't
I
know.
have a feeling if something like lunatic mode, you have to like just really know what character needs what to succeed. That's what I was about to say. Shoot, uh, jump right past me. But no, never mind then. But
I do wish it would let you change the difficulty in the game. I thought you could, but I went to go change it and it was just grayed out. It said I couldn't change it to hard now, which was disappointing because
oh right,
they,
it's what I was gonna say was how I do my combat is I pretty much have Edel and have the professor tank.
right.
And when I hit them, they usually have low health, and I let the other characters come in and get final blows on all of them, because like
That's
both of them are like level 12. Like she's like level 13, he's level 15. They're all like level 7 to 8. So I want them to get their EXP and then try to get as close to them as possible.
yeah, dude. Like my main character, the professor, right, and then Edelgard. Those two are such beasts. Like a lot of times, because they'll counterattack. A lot of times, I'll do the same thing where I'll just put them out there to be like a tank, and then another enemy will attack them, and then my character will just counterattack and kill them in one hit. And I'm like, God damn it! I was hoping to bring somebody else over to kind of swing in and take some of the experience points, but yeah, that's kind of the way I've been playing too. But I've been trying to balance it out a little bit and keep some of those characters back recently and put some of the other characters out there to kind of get them leveled up. Because, for example, Casper, I had him and I noticed he was like level 6 and like everyone else was like in their 20s. So I was just like, oh, I need to get him leveled up because he's going to end up dying if I keep letting this happen. So
I really don't have much use for him. Like I've made some use out of the other characters. Like I made Dorothea and Bernadette like the bow users with a little magic, and Hugo with the magic, and the purple haired girl I made into another sword user / magic user. Like I've given them like most of them like a form of ranged that makes them all pretty useful. Casper is like the only one I've still made like a axe, like more heavy damage type character, but I can't ever get him close enough to the enemies before the other ones just take him down.
yeah, so I don't know, but I mean, thus far I really like it. It's definitely I'm definitely glad I bought it. I for me it's a $60 purchase. I don't know if it's a $60 purchase if you've been a hardcore Fire Emblem fan for 20 years and now you didn't really like the last game, so you're being hesitant about this one. I don't know. You might have to just look at more Let's Plays and check that out. But for me, just kind of jumping in here, I'm really liking it. I think it's a really well balanced game, and thus far I like it. We'll see if by the time if I keep playing it, where the story goes. Thus far, I'm enjoying it, but I've heard some people say they enjoyed the first half, but the second half I kind of couldn't keep up the pace with the story. So we'll see how I feel about it. But thus far, it's a good time. So, Stan, you said you bought the game, right?
I did, but for someone else as a gift.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a while before I play it, but that's okay. I guess I'll know everything that's great and everything that's lacking, or I'll know all the pros and cons.
We'll spoil the entire game.
I mean, you could. That might end up happening to me anyway, but no, we'll see how it is when I get a chance to play it.
I'm interested to see how different the different houses are, or the route through the different houses, because you're basically at the same monastery, so I feel like it would be the same story, but apparently they are different. So I don't know.
I'll have to choose something other than Black Eagles then, sounds like.
What I've heard is like the major broad strokes of the story are the same.
Yeah.
But like the character interactions and character growth and development stuff like that's very different.
That would make sense because I can't see them making 3 separate games. That would be outrageous. So
yeah.
Anyways, I'm gonna keep playing the game. I'm really glad I got it. I was hoping, well, I wasn't hoping, but I was planning on Fire Emblem 3 Houses coming out with a very, very solid 7 out of 10 score. At which point I was gonna not buy it, and I was gonna keep playing Final Fantasy 14 and get further into through that game. But I've had to put 14 down to play Fire Emblem. But I'm gonna get back into 14 here soon. So
it blew that 7 out of 10 expectation out of the water, huh?
Yeah, dude, it was getting like 9.5s.
Yeah.
Somebody even commented in one of the videos, was like, you said you would buy it if it got a 9. It got a 9.5. And I was like, well, all right. I guess I'll buy it then.
You don't promise things because then things happen, and then you have to.
I thought I promised something that was like absurd, like, oh, when pigs fly,
Yeah.
But no,
That's why I specifically say I might play Trails in the Sky again if there's a Steam sale. Because apparently the localization on the PC version is much better than the PSP version I have. So I might like it a little more then. But no promises. Just saying maybe.
Eric just doesn't commit to anything, and that way he's always right.
Right.
I like it. But anyways, so y'all should go check it out. One final thought with that: I do not like the cover art of the game.
The three houses?
Yes. Person like hanging upside down, or
yeah, and it's just like I don't know. Like I feel they have the one where it's basically like I've seen it in like posters and stuff where it's basically like the Final Fantasy 15 like Noctis throne. But it's Fire Emblem or something. I don't know. It's very that one looks pretty cool, but like the one I have, it's like it's got like a big bright colors on the front, and like it just doesn't feel in theme with like the Harry Potterness and like the dark magic and stuff. A very ugly cover. I don't like it. If I had just saw this cover, I would not want me to buy this game.
It'd be cool if there's like an interchangeable cover to like one of the three houses. Then you can
like the one you chose. That'd be cool.
I understand there's three and there's only two sides, but they found some solution with that.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm still apprehensive about whether I'm going to get the season pass. That's going to have more content. I want to know more about what's going to be in there, but we'll see. Anyways, so that's thoughts on Fire Emblem Three Houses. Moving on though, Jesus Christ. So there was a recent doxing episode of over 2,000 journalists and content creators on YouTube on pull it up here.
The Big Oof.
The Big Oops or Oof.
Yeah.
So what I'll do is I'm just going to. There's a Kotaku article that kind of sums everything up real quick. I'll just go ahead and go through this. That way our audio listeners can kind of get up to speed and everyone can start off on the same playing field. So it says E3 Expo leaks the personal information of over 2,000 journalists. It says a spreadsheet containing the contact information and personal addresses of over 2,000 games journalists, editors, and other content creators was recently found to have been published and publicly accessible on the website of the E3 Expo. The Entertainment Software Association, the organization that runs E3, has since removed the link to the file as well as the file itself, but the information has continued to be disseminated online in various gaming forums. While many of the individuals listed in the documents provided their work addresses and phone numbers when they registered for E3, and many others, especially freelance content creators, aka YouTube, seem to have used their home addresses and personal cell phones, which now have been publicized. This leak makes it possible for bad actors to misuse this information to harass journalists. Two people who say their private information appeared in the leak have informed Kotaku that they have already received prank phone calls since the list was publicized. The existence of this document was first publicized in a YouTube video that journalist Sophia Nodowitz posted to her personal account on Friday night. In the video, she described how the file could be accessed on the public E3 website. Was a webpage that carried a link simply titled Registered Media List. Upon clicking the link, a spreadsheet was downloaded that included the names, addresses, phone numbers, and publications of over 2,000 members of the press who attended E3 this year. Again, the E3 website has since been updated to remove the link, but cached versions of the site do indeed show the link titled Registered Media List. Used to appear on a helpful links page. Here's that little link right there. And let's go down here. It says, before even considering making the story public, this is the YouTuber, I contacted the ESA via phone within 30 minutes of having this information. And I was worried that might not be enough. I also shot off an email not too long after that. On top of that, I reached out to a number of journalists to make them aware of this. One reporter who asked to remain anonymous told Kotaku that he had been one of the people she contacted, blah, blah, blah. essentially, the YouTuber went on to correct Kotaku and say, she did multiple checks to make sure the information wasn't available anymore. But yeah, like this link was literally a link you just clicked on, and it would pop up with an Excel file with 2,000 names that had addresses, phone numbers, and their only real response was, they got it right here. The ESA provided Kotaku with a statement about the leak. ESA was made aware of a website vulnerability that led to the contact list of registered journalists attending E3 being made public. Once notified, we immediately took steps to protect that data and shut down the site, which is no longer available. We regret this occurrence and have put measures in place to ensure it will not occur again. That's kind of misleading because they said it was a website vulnerability. But
vulnerability implies someone was able to hack into data that is not like front facing on the website, right? Yeah, but this was literally a link. Like a link, you could, if you found the right page, there's a link, and you just click it, and you download a spreadsheet.
And apparently, they said it was
created a link, and then for everyone to get into. I had my doubts on that. This is something that was just a major goof up by someone there.
Yeah,
a goof up that's big enough that we may not have E3 anymore.
That's what I was thinking might happen, because they're going to get so many lawsuits.
Yeah, there's a class action.
So much money.
There's a class action lawsuit for this right now. I'm sure they're going to get something, because, like they brought up in that article, okay, somebody that works at IGN, like the IGN staff, they all got doxxed apparently, right? But they put the IGN office address and like the receptionist phone number, so they didn't really get that doxxed. Whereas there's YouTubers on there who their office is, their garage or like their spare bedroom. Yeah. Their living room. So they put their home address and their cell phone number on there. And in this day and age, people don't realize, but like big YouTubers, like when they get doxxed, there's all sorts of stuff that happens. For a while, there was this trend where, while a streamer was streaming, somebody would like make a fake call to the police, and they'd, watch the SWAT team kick down their door, or, there'd be YouTubers that show up at their house, or at one point somebody showed up with a gun at a YouTuber's house I was reading. So it's not like, whatever, prank phone calls. Like, it's just like a very bad thing that happened to these people.
Yeah. And I'm guessing they have to provide their home address because they're YouTubers. Like they're putting that there so that if they are going to be sent like early demos or like review copies of games, right, they have to provide that address because that's where they would want the game to be mailed to.
Exactly.
And so they provide that to the ESA, and then they were just very irresponsible with that info.
If I was famous enough of a YouTuber to get like invites from E3, I'm a little bit more cautious. I would have created a PO box.
Yeah.
And use a different phone number, like a phone number specifically for like calls from like them or whatnot. Yeah. So if anything happened, I'll be like, oh well, they could dox my PO box all they want.
I guess the thing is though, this like you wouldn't expect this. Like this is 2,000 people. That's a lot. Like there's apparently people on there that are like not like Angry Joe big, like 60,000 subscriber big, like, so those people, like that's a big channel. I mean, that's obviously bigger than our podcast here, but at that level, you may not, if you're trying to do that full time, you may not, have a money for like a second phone or, or PO box. There may not be a lot of disposable income, or you may not even, it's something that like IGN goes to. You would think it would be safe. It wouldn't, like, why would you possibly think it would just be a link on their website that anyone could click on?
Yeah, that's not a vulnerability. That's just irresponsible, basically.
I do think, Eric, what you're bringing up though, like, I think that a lot of people are just going to be really, really cautious in the future. And if they are going to go, they're going to take measures, like you said, extra phone, PO box. But I think that's going to deter a lot of people from going too, that they feel like they have to do that in order to not have their, privacy invaded. And like y'all were saying, I mean, E3's been losing money, so it's kind of like the only people going to go are like IGN and Game Informer or something.
I don't think I'll have to worry about it, period, because I honestly don't think. I mean, if this class action lawsuit goes through, like ESA has nothing to go on to win a case. They're likely going to win that class action lawsuit, and that might be big enough to just have E3 be stopped altogether. Which
especially especially with like Sony and Microsoft and Sony wasn't even there altogether, but like Microsoft and Activision and EA held their events at E3 like at a different venue. So like they not only are they not making as much money from the developers, right, from the publishers, now they have this huge lawsuit to worry about. And you have to wonder, like, well, how is their funding situation? Do they have enough money to keep putting on this show every year?
Yeah, I mean, I think like you brought up, well, like you've been pointing out, like not only are these these publishers trying to do different things, but Sony themselves this last summer they just said, hey, you know what, we're not going.
Yep.
And they just started their own like little like online thing. Now I think that's probably because like we're close enough to the PS5 where they're just like, you know what, we're just gonna wait. Maybe that's what it is, but I mean, I think they're kind of dipping their toe in the water too. Like, hey, do we need to keep doing this crazy thing? And with this type of stuff, it just I don't know. I don't know what to expect next year. I don't know.
They did pretty well. I mean, their first state of play wasn't good at all, but their second one was pretty good. So if they I mean, if they just brush up a little bit, their videos can have just as much impact as a Nintendo Direct. Because I can tell you right now, I'm more excited for Nintendo Directs than something like E3 showcase stuff like that anymore.
Yeah.
Because right now with E3, the attendance rate has been lowering every year, but the viewership online has been raising every year. So the common sense question is, why aren't these major companies just playing on their own terms now? Because a lot of times they have to rush their games to get at least gameplay footage and a trailer up for E3 at this date. So say like you're Microsoft and you're like, why do we need to rush this? We have online now. We can create a thing and people will go to it. We just have to make sure the message gets out correctly. And then you get all this slew of new information on their own terms. And that's a game Sony's playing now. And that's a game Nintendo has been playing. They want to show stuff when they're ready. They don't want to show stuff when they have to.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the the cool thing about E3 is that you get to look forward to it. Like there's all this speculation, there's possible leaks, and then there's surprise announcements. There's a lot of surprise announcements certain years, and you get really, really hyped up, and it's really exciting, and all these developer interviews and stuff. It's really, really cool. But at the same time, like you're pointing out there is, a lot of times like the expectations are for companies to be at E3, and because they're going to be at E3, there's an expectation for them to show stuff. And as a result, they end up showing stuff when it's not ready, or it's not, it's not coming out for 5 or 6 years, but they just like, they don't want to have a bad E3 showing because that's just going to be a lot of negative press. And, maybe it is just a better thing to just have, our current system with like YouTube and other outlets where like, okay, when you're ready, and you actually have something to show, you can put that content out there. You can show us and frame the game the way you want it to be framed. You can market it the way you want to market it. That way you're not trying to, cram an idea down our throat 6 years before it's coming out. And, we might all be happier for it. I mean, you are going to have a loss from not being able to have that exciting like summer, like, oh crap, what's going to happen next summer? Is Final Fantasy 16 going to be announced this summer? But it's still really, really cool when like a trailer just pops up on YouTube and you're like, oh crap, like I didn't even expect that. So
yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, like why why spend all this money to like rent space at a convention, right? When that makes it so you're competing with all the other companies to like have the biggest announcement, right?
Yeah.
Or like at least a like top 5 news item like coming out of the show. But you don't know what the other teams and developers and publishers are bringing to the table, right? So why not just drop your Death Stranding trailer on a random Tuesday and just dominate the news cycle for that whole few days, right?
Yeah.
Rather than you drop it, but there was Cyberpunk and FF7 remake there, and so like you got overshadowed by like other things.
That's a really good point. Yeah.
It's so much cheaper to have your own venue also. Like when what was it? I think it was Sony I think did it with like the PS4 Pro or something. They had they made their own convention or whatnot or a venue for it. And it's like, one, you don't have to pay ESA. Two, it's your own terms, your own rules on how things go about and who you specifically want to invite and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Everything is just on your own terms like that. And that's just another beautiful thing. I think right now E3 has become a method of trying to please shareholders, investors. The only real perk to E3 at this point is to show off games on the show floor. But even then, these companies can create their own thing and invite people around, and the people with a lot of money can fly there for it and get like the previews that they want out of it. So
I think it's really cool from like a journalist point of view, and that you can have like a team of journalists from like, let's say IGN, right? And they're just there on the floor, and they can go, okay, at from 2 to 2:30 we're going to be talking to the developers of Final Fantasy VII Remake. Then from 2:30 to 3 we're going to be talking to the developers of Cyberpunk. And then from there on, it just keeps going. And I think it's really cool to have all the stuff in like basically one location where you can just get pummeled with like all these developer interviews, and like all these journalists get to play these games and tell us about it. I think it's a really cool concept, but I totally agree that like you could just find another way to do something like that by just like, hey, here's a copy of our game. Here's a demo of the game. Feel free to try it out. Like it's not, I don't know. There is something that you can't really be recreated by that going away, but at the same time, is it worth it? I don't know.
I think it's worth it to do it by yourself. It saves money. You get all the publicity in the world still at the amount you do with the E3. But what I do think is cool that they should do one day in the future when we can support this type of feature is like, how people got to play Final Fantasy VII Remake on the show floor? Mm-hmm. Like, wouldn't it be cool if like they just offered that temporarily? Like, you can play the demo. You can play the demo this week before we take it back down. Like, you can play it 5 times before before it expires. Like, Nintendo does that with 3DS demos. They let you play it a certain amount of times before it expires. So, like, say, like, for the week of such and such, you can play Final Fantasy VII Remake 5 times.
So, kind of like they did with Octopath Traveler, where they gave a demo, but it would only let you play. It wasn't a length of the game, like up to this point. It was like only 3 hours. So, if you sat there with your menu open for 2.5 hours or 3 hours, like, all right, well, that's what you get to play. Kind of that route. Is that what you're talking about, Eric?
Yeah, and I don't know if I 100% agree with like the 5-time thing, but I know that's something they would do. It's just to make sure that like the demos are like what the product is right now isn't affected like for future products or compared to anything like that, or something they didn't want in there, or they want people to test bugs or whatnot for it. So, that's something that could be cool in the future because we almost have the technology to have that be a thing. Because if you did something like that right now, people would be just like the servers would blow up.
Yeah.
Well, like let's say like Nintendo, part of their online service, like they would just let you, I don't know, they would have to work out stuff with specific companies, but if they would just let you demo games like briefly that you wouldn't be able to do if you weren't a paying person, consumer customer, that would be very advantageous if I got to play, a game a month ahead of time and got to like test it out, and it'd be good for the developers too, just like you mentioned, to have that many people being able to test a game and find bugs and stuff like that. I don't know. There's some cool
free
things you can
2A,
do with
right?
it. Dude, I'm telling you.
Yeah.
They need to listen to our podcast.
Yeah.
I think this has probably come across their mind a couple times.
Have you seen
like, how can we do it without our service just like melting?
Yeah. Have you seen the Switch Labo? I mean, I'm pretty sure like a lot of these ideas have come across. Just the fact that idea was crazy. The fact that they thought of that, I'm sure some of these other ideas have come across at least Nintendo's desk. So.
I kind of want to get the VR Labo thing just to see how the VR is, but then again, I don't want to spend money for cardboard either. So
yeah.
Usually I throw that away. I don't know.
Maybe I'll take electric tape and just wrap my Switch around my face and try it that way.
Yeah, the thing I have with that is like, oh yeah, let me put this $300 console in this like crappy cardboard and like put it on my head so it could just like, I feel like it's gonna flop out or something. I don't know. I haven't given it a shot, but I'm not in on it. I'm not in on the Labo. And apparently Nintendo isn't either, because I guess the Switch Mini doesn't fit. So.
Yep, Switch only feature.
So anyways, but
E3 might be done.
Might be done.
Good.
Sucks
Let's
these
see how the
people's
year
stuff.
develops.
Yep, sucks how these people's stuff got leaked. And I don't know, we'll have to see where this class action lawsuit goes. If it actually goes out there and actually gets some traction, we'll have to see. So it's gonna be hard.
Yeah,
to
Lane, that is definitely one thing, but I think maybe putting huge disclaimers, like this is still a work in progress. Bugs are, issues are to be expected. Please leave any feedback you can. Thank you, stuff like that. And I think the only like not level-minded people will be like, "You gave the pizza crap."
Just for some context, Lane, he put in Eric was responding. He said, as someone who works in software, the one negative thing about the demo is that if bugs are found, it can give some users a negative perspective of the game if bugs are found.
Yeah. That's certainly true. The pros and cons of it.
Yeah, you have to find that balance, I think, where like, okay, we're pretty certain, like they can't just not bug test the game at all and put a demo out, right? And expect everyone, there's still a threshold you have to hit where it's like, okay, there's nothing that's like a game breaking. They're just gonna find like little things like, the character's gonna like bounce to the wall or something, but not like the game won't turn on or something like that, right? So
even demos during the PlayStation era were completed titles and had bugs in them, but like they weren't representative of the finished product. I think they wrote them on that too. Wrote them on there too.
Well, that's the crazy thing. I mean, games back then, if they came out with a bug, they had to stick with it. And I think there are a handful of games that, like their first release, there were bugs where you couldn't even beat the game until they like had to come out with another shipment to fix it. So it's kind of crazy. You think about that compared to today, where these games come out and there's so many issues that you come across, and like they're able to just patch them. It's really a different time. So anyways, that's kind of our side tangent, but yeah, so kind of wrap things up here with the ESA / E3 leak. We'll see where this goes, and I'm sure we'll have a E3 next summer. I doubt that it's going to go away that fast, but we'll see where this goes. One exciting piece of announcement that came out this week the Outer Worlds. It's that game that's coming out by Obsidian. They basically developed Fallout New Vegas. um, they're having a port for their upcoming game for the Switch, and it's being handled by the same company that handled the Final Fantasy 12 port and the Dark Souls port to the Switch. So those are supposed to be both pretty good, and that's pretty exciting that a game like that is coming to the Switch. I don't know if that would be the version I would want to play, because it isn't like an indie game. It's a very I'll put some video on the screen here, but it's not. I have a feeling like the Switch wouldn't be the optimal way to play the game.
It's a AAA Western RPG. Yeah.
I think it's good. It's like one of those PC optimal games. Like, I'm sure it's going to work fine on the Switch as long as they optimize it correctly. But it's a first person game ultimately, and my personal opinion, mouse and keyboard work best for those type of setups. I mean, controllers work just fine also, but just for me, like those type of games I always get on PC just because of that.
Yeah, so I don't know. It might be kind of like a novelty item for some people to be like, "Hey, look at this game. It's running on the Switch." That might be kind of cool, and especially with the recent Switch update, or the updated Switch model that has a bit better of a battery life, this might be more of a reality. But I'm with you. I'm with you both. Like this looks at the very least, I would prefer to play this on the PS4 Pro, but I think the mouse and keyboard option would be much better for this game. So back up. Sorry guys, we're having some technical difficulties.
Heck.
We back?
All right, so I'm here, and hold on.
It says we're live again.
Did we break up?
We were offline for a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know. It says we're back up again. Okay. So let me get this camera up again. And sorry about that, guys.
Yep, happens sometimes.
Yeah.
When we get cut off the part where I said I didn't like Fallout 3 and someone came in and broke our stream.
Yeah. Well, let me look at the stream health here.
Todd
says-
Howard made a call to YouTube, right? And was like, guys, Phoenix
like,
Edge.
Just cut this off for like 5 seconds. Yeah. So the last part that I got was that you didn't really like Fallout 3, and then it just like stopped.
Yeah. Like you said, Todd called and said, shut down this freaking Jack Black looking asshole.
Just blame it on Google Hangouts.
Yeah. But anyways, what I said was I didn't care for Fallout 3, didn't care for Fallout 4. Don't care for Bethesda RPGs in general, in my opinion. But New Vegas was a complete exception. Like, the story was better. It was a lot better paced. It was a lot more interesting. The world, the choices felt a lot more meaningful, and I cared a lot more about the characters in the game. And I asked myself, what was so different about those games between the other ones? And I look and it says, oh, it wasn't even made by Bethesda direct in-house. It was made by Obsidian. People have made like the first two Fallouts. I haven't played Fallout 1 or 2, but I really like that game. So when I see the Outer Worlds, they're trying like something extravagant, new, inspired by New Vegas. I'm like, yeah, I kind of want to get this game.
Yeah, like the thing I like about it is that it's really keeping the spirit of Fallout. It feels like a traditional Fallout experience, but it seems to have strayed a little bit from that post-apocalyptic feeling and more of just a plain futuristic setting. I mean, it's still got clear post-apocalyptic vibes to it, but it looks very, very, very. I don't know. It just looks like a really pleasant experience to play. I mean, I can get him back on here. All right, there you are. Can you hear me?
I hear you.
Cool. Okay, so I don't know. Every time I play this like New Worlds or Outer Worlds video, it seems to, I don't know if that's just a coincidence, but I'm gonna stop playing that video. But anyways, so I was just talking and it never seemed to go down again. So I don't know. But basically I was just saying that I was really looking forward to this game. I mean, it looks like it's really like not generic at all. It looks like a passion project. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. Also
Mhm.
shows Microsoft is the publisher, but it's coming to Nintendo Switch.
That's yeah, I didn't even think about that, but that is pretty interesting.
PS4 as well, so
Yeah.
it's
I
interesting.
will have to download Epic Store to play
if you want
Outer
to play it
Worlds,
on
but
PC.
I don't really care. I don't have any emotional attachment to Steam. I have to download some program to play it, whatever.
Yeah.
But
Some people don't like Epic Store though because I guess it's not available in as many countries as Steam.
mhm.
So
I mean, I understand people's perspective,
yeah,
but like me personally, it doesn't really matter. But it's really weird how Epic has been doing this crazy amount of strong arming
yeah,
companies into their thing. It's not like, hey, look at our fantastic deals. We have deals and features the other don't.
mhm.
It's like, oh, you want to play this game? Well, you'll have to come over here because we paid a lot of money to get them right in there.
Yeah. I think they realized that Fortnite, while it's a mega success, it's not going to last forever. So they need to invest that money from Fortnite into Epic Games Store and kind of create their own ecosystem, establish themselves as a competitor to Steam, and might as well throw around the money to do it while you still have it. So
I mean, that's a smart thing to do because, I mean, we all thought MMOs were going to like be the big thing and everyone's going in and making their own MMO, but they couldn't compete with WoW until 14 came in. But
yeah,
I mean, but besides Final Fantasy 14, it's like no one's making an MMO anymore because it's just too much of a risk to make one.
yeah,
So it's going to become like everyone's making a battle royale right now. It's eventually going to get to the point that like, unless you're Fortnite, which will even have its own downfall, it's like don't bother doing the battle royale because no one's going to play it. Not right now, but I'd say
Yeah.
within 5 years that's going to happen.
And before that, it was the MOBA games, right? League of Legends and Dota 2,
Mhm.
and there was a bunch of others, but only those two big ones really survived. Those are really the only two that people play anymore. So,
Yeah.
at least as far as I'm aware.
I've never seen a Heroes of the Storm.
Oh yeah,
Like-
that's another one. Yeah.
I know there's tournaments for it probably, but I've never seen one. Like I
Yeah.
barely know what that game looks like.
I hardly hear anything about it.
hmm
Yeah. So
But anyways, Outer Worlds.
Yeah.
I did notice that it has a party system in it in the
Hmm.
gameplay. So you have two people like as
Yeah,
supports.
yeah.
And what's really cool is that they kind of have like dialogue and banter with each other, similar to Knights of the Old Republic. So like while you're just like traveling through to your next location, Pat, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, I gotta make sure once in a while. But yeah, you get the they get the banter and they support you and you can talk to them and build relationships with them. Another feature I noticed was they don't have the system where it freezes and you pick like an enemy spot to hit like Fallout.
Oh
Yeah.
But
yeah.
they have a system where like it's like some kind of energy bar you have and it like slows down everything. So, but you can still choose what target you want to hit. Just like moving around normally, like you do in the FPS, and I guess that's a cool feature also because it's something that's readily available like after
So,
a few
it's-
seconds.
It's kind of like they tried to implement something similar, but they couldn't implement the exact same thing.
Yeah, I think that's better too because I think that's all you really need when you're in slow mo version. Like you don't need to pick a limb to shoot. You can just aim where you want to, and it's like a little help assist for a few seconds, especially when things get hectic.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well,
Yeah, Red Dead Redemption has something similar, right?
Yeah,
Where you
that's a
slow down
great
time
system it
and
has.
make your marks, right? You can kind of do that when it's like really important to hit the critical, the important enemies, and then you undo that and he just fires them all.
Hmm.
I haven't really checked out too much of the gameplay that I've seen. I mean, I checked out a little bit, but it does look promising. But I think what appeals to me most is just like the concept of it and the like the futuristic vibe to it. I mean, Fallout has always had that like post-apocalyptic, but it was like 1950s future, right? Where
Mhm.
like they kind of have like the like 1950s little like memes or artwork and stuff, and you know that's one thing, and it's really cool. But this just seems like a little bit of a different departure from that, and it seems I don't know. There's something about it, just like the crazy and wacky characters that seem to appear in the trailers and stuff. Like it seems really interesting. So.
Yeah, I mean that's a big selling point for me. Really, also is just the theme of it. It doesn't really seem bland or anything. It looks like they're using like it's a very colorful game. The characters look like they have their own unique art style to them that already makes them pop out more and look more interesting instead of kind of like the bland looking characters you usually get from Fallout. So it definitely looks like they're going the extra mile to make this appealing on many levels with people. I think people who are not even into these type of games may even get into this game just with how great the presentation looks.
Yeah, and with it being a new game on the Switch, like that's a just a whole nother audience they have access to.
Yeah,
And
that's a really good point.
yeah,
Um,
oftentimes like Witcher and these other games, right? They're coming to Skyrim, right? They're coming to Switch like after the fact, and so a lot of people who have a Switch and a PC or Switch and another console, they're only picking it up and getting into it if they really loved it, right? And they want a portable version.
yeah.
So, but this is like launching same day. Did they give a release
Well,
date for it or
the
just an announcement?
Xbox, PS4, and PC version are supposed to come out on October 25th, and then they said the Switch port will come out sometime after that.
So it is a little
Yeah, so we don't know
delayed
what.
still.
Yeah, they haven't given a
Uh,
specific date, but I do like how they said sometime after that. Like, oh, okay, well, that could be
yeah,
a year, that could be the next week. I feel like since they're announcing it, that it can't be substantially in the future. It's probably maybe Christmas time,
yeah.
maybe
Hopefully,
I'm guessing like March, April 2020.
maybe that far out. Yeah,
I could be wrong, but the way it sounds like they need more time with the Switch version.
which
It's
is
going to take
fine.
some time to like optimize it and make sure it runs smoothly in both docked mode and undocked mode. And
What's
yeah.
um,
what's
yeah,
kind of interesting too, not specifically about this game, and I don't know if this is true or not, but if you guys watched the Dreamcast guy's newest video about the new Switch model, the new, not the Switch Mini, but the actual new Switch, that's basically just a small upgrade. It's obviously it's got all the stuff you expected, like the more efficient battery life, and really that's I guess I said all the stuff, but that's the only thing. But he was doing some comparison videos of different games, and the boot time was basically the same, but uh, he pointed out one game, Doom, that he was playing on there, and it was running better on the newer Switch. I mean, it wasn't like
Hmm.
a 40% increase or anything like that, but it was like a minor improvement. So I wonder if maybe that's why we're seeing some of these other things out there, that other games like this, of Witcher 3 and then the Outer Worlds. If some of these companies said, "Hey, we'll bring it to the Switch, but we don't want like a frame rate that's just constantly like dropping. You need to put some more hardware out there that can uh, have a tiny bit more stable frame rate." I don't know, but
Could
just
be.
interesting,
Yeah.
interesting uh, thing I came across today. So we'll have to see.
I think it's about time we jump to our last topic before you cut off again. You sound like a robot right now.
Oh, do I really?
Yeah, a little bit.
Oh, well, that's unfortunate. All right.
I mean, you still sound fine enough.
Oh, okay. Well, you all sound fine to me. So, and I think since I'm the one streaming, I think it's good on mine. So that's good. But anyways, last topic. Any favorite strategy RPGs? And what about the mechanics made you enjoy the gameplay? Also, if you have any history with the Fire Emblem series, any favorite entries and why? And how's Three Houses comparing? Don't know how to pronounce your name, but Dameceles? I don't know. Dameceles. Maybe that's what it is. You can correct us in the comments or just let us know on Discord. But anyways, so we have favorite strategy RPGs. Why did you enjoy those? Because gameplay wise. And then what's your history with Fire Emblem? And what's your favorite in there? And how's Three Houses comparing? It's like four small questions, but
rapid fire.
Yeah.
Let's take it one at a time.
Okay, so favorite strategy RPG, and what about the mechanics made you enjoy the game?
Who wants to go first?
Go ahead, Stan.
Okay. So I played a lot of strategy RPGs, and I can't really think of any that I dislike, but I do have some favorites. But like a personal favorite of mine is Ogre Battle 64, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was like one of 5 RPGs to actually come out on the 4 or 5 RPGs on the N64. And that's like not an exaggeration. I think there was like less than 10 total because everything fled and went to the PlayStation that generation. But it's a kind of pseudo real-time and turn-based hybrid. So it's not like a Final Fantasy Tactics game or like a Fire Emblem where you're like on a map and it's like grid-based and you move your guys around.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, it's like you look from top down and there's like a very large map and there are strongholds on the map that you're trying to move your characters towards and like take them from the enemy. And when your characters meet an enemy group on the battlefield, it transitions to like a battle screen, kind of like Final Fantasy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then your group versus the enemy group, and they face off. And what's interesting about it is you don't just battle the enemy to the death right there. Instead, every soldier in your group has a certain number of attacks they can use. And then once they've spent all their attacks and the enemy has spent all of their attacks, the battle just ends, and whichever team dealt the most damage to the other is the winner. And the losing team gets pushed back on the map, like they had to fall back, and the winning team is able to just keep advancing. So it's kind of like very satisfying as you like deploy all of your soldiers from one area of the map and just like slowly move across, from one side to the other. And your goal is to take the enemy stronghold on the other side. So you got kind of a chess game going on, but like in a JRPG formula to it, yeah. And it was developed by Quest, which is the old team where Matsuno came from before he moved to Square to create the Final Fantasy Tactics and Final Fantasy 12 and all that.
And then Square eventually gets the rights to them anyways, so
yeah,
like welcome back home.
Yeah, the game is kind of like in a legal hell, I'm guessing, like rights holder hell, because Square bought out Quest, right? A few years later after Matsuno came to them, right? They bought them out to reunite his old team with him so that they could work on games for Square. So Square Enix owns Quest. However, Nintendo published Ogre Battle 64.
So it's kind of a weird
it's like
scenario.
who has the rights, and I assume it's Nintendo because they've released it on the Virtual Console on the Wii and the Wii U, right? So I'm guessing it's them. However, it must not have sold that great because there's like no rumors or anything of a remaster, and that
Right.
makes sense because the developers all work for Square, right? So,
Yeah, it would
or
be
who
kind of
knows
a,
where they are at this point? They may have left Square, one at a time, or
If they wanted to remaster that for any reason, I doubt Nintendo would try to get in the way too much. They'd be like, okay, well, let's strike a deal.
yeah,
Like they remastered Tactics Ogre, Let Us Cling Together, but they haven't brought any of the other older Ogre Battle games.
they haven't. No,
to the game. The PlayStation one's the only one they've remastered. So I'm like, this is a gold mine right here. There are a bunch of great games. They still hold up very well. Maybe some minor adjustments may need to be made to maybe any small faults the games had. But besides that, I mean, you could create a Ogre collection and um, release it like on the PS4, Switch, PC for them. And it'll be, I mean, that would be awesome.
that would be
And
great.
it might spark interest in the series again. I mean, because they're all great games and all very well written.
Yeah, and the 3 games that they made, Ogre Battle on the Super Nintendo, and then Tactics Ogre, which was also a Super Nintendo game, and then ported to many other systems after, and then Ogre Battle 64. They're like, when you boot them up and you start a new game, it says that like they're episode 4, 5, and 6, like in the Ogre Battle saga. But then Matsuno left the company, and he was the mastermind of the series. He had all the story ideas. So
He is back now.
yeah, but like there's no episode 1, 2, 3. Like surely he has like an outline or something of like where he wanted what to do with those stories.
It's on like a napkin
Yeah.
somewhere in like an old studio. Like, oh
Yeah.
yeah.
So it's just a shame. Like
I got on my old
that could have
Windows
been a
95
great
computers somewhere.
yeah.
Yeah.
That could have been like a great series of games. It's just the timing of him leaving the company,
Leaving.
and then
Yeah.
that company also like, I mean, they didn't really have much creativity, I guess, or direction without him, and so then they had to be bought out by Square, and now it's
kind of just nowhere. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that stuff's unfortunate. I played the first 2 games, or I guess the 4th and 5th game. I guess is I don't know how you would say it, but
I don't remember which is which.
yeah, I don't know. But
It's really complicated.
Yeah.
I haven't played the one on the Nintendo 64, but I have. That game has always kind of stuck out, and that, like you said, that was one of the few RPGs actually on the Nintendo 64, and for that reason, it's always made me want to play it because. Just the fact that it is kind of a rarity on the system, and
Yeah.
I don't know. I just haven't gotten around to it, but
Yeah, the only way you can play it legally now is obviously if you have an old cartridge, right? If you have a original cartridge and bust out your N64. But the only way now is the Wii U eShop, because the Nintendo Wii eShop, they shut it down either
so
last year or the year prior.
when they do dumb stuff like that, my response is, I'm gonna illegally emulate it.
Yeah, pretty much, right?
It's not too expensive to buy if you want to get the physical copy, the original. A lot of people are selling it for about $30.
Yeah,
on
but
eBay.
that money's not gonna go to the developers, and it's gonna look like crap on my 4K television.
Yeah, and you need to bust out your N64 and plug it in, and does
Yeah,
your
it's just-
TV even take those old cables, right?
Yeah,
Like
and I
probably
just-
not. So you
I
need
just
an
know it would-
adapter of some kind. And
Look, I'm covered on this stuff. You're all the one that needs to get updated on your old hardware.
Yeah, so or I could just download it and play it on my computer.
Yeah,
and upscale it. So,
Yeah.
I
That
don't
is
know.
my-
If they did come out with a remaster on like the Switch or anywhere else, really, I guess it would have to be on the Switch. That would be really, really cool. I would
be all
definitely get
over
it
that.
done.
Day
I'd
one.
be all for it. Yeah, day one for me also. I mean, those
That's-
games are great.
Yeah, that's my personal favorite tactical RPG. I wouldn't say it's better than like a Tactics Ogre or Final Fantasy Tactics.
Yeah.
It's just very unique.
Mm.
You don't. Most of the games, most tactical RPGs are trying to mimic the like grid-based combat style, like Final Fantasy Tactics and Fire Emblem have made popular.
Sure.
But, and maybe because Quest went under and is gone, no one has really gone back to the formula of the 2 ogre battle games, where you have like troops all moving at once, like across a map, and then they get into their little engagements, and you're like trying to manage, like telling each group where to go on the map.
Yeah, that is kind of a interesting way to do it. I know there's some like Japanese like tactical RPGs that were released on the Sega that kind of had a similar vibe to it. But yeah, you don't really see too many of those now, really. None that I can think of. It's
Yeah,
usually you just choose one specific character. That's the thing. Fire Emblem Three Houses kind of tries to like simulate that a little bit, but like it's just in the animation. Like you choose to attack this character, and then it'll show you like a little cutscene with like other guys behind you that magically appeared, but it's
Yeah.
not the same thing at all.
Yeah, it's kind of like the like the little skirmish battles you have in Final Fantasy VI, where you have to like split up your team and put them into 3 or 4 groups, and then
Right.
there's like enemy troops like moving from one side to the other, and you're supposed to prevent them from getting to the end.
Right.
It's like that, but just the entire game is like kind of that system. You've got enemy troops moving, and you're also moving like towards the opposite side. Yeah, and you clash in the middle.
Interesting.
So.
Well, it's a pretty good pick. What about you, Eric?
I mean, we all obviously love the Tactics Ogre and Final Fantasy, but to bring up any other interesting ones, I've brought up on the podcast before, but I love the Arc the Lad series.
I knew you were going to pick that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good one.
Oh, I'm so predictable now. But yes, the Arc the Lad series. This is a great trilogy of games, particularly Arc the Lad 1 and 2. It has a good mixture of classic JRPG elements and quick tactical battles that last only like for a few minutes instead of like a good amount of time. And it's supposed to be quick, snappy, go in, fight, get out type of deal. But you're on a strategic grid board. At least in the first game, you are. In the second one, you have more traditional dungeons and world map and exploration. But the first game, it's all tactical maps with the occasional, like you can move your character around and the map type thing. But it's a really good game. It has a solid story. It's one of the working design great titles like them and Lunar series.
One of the interesting things about it, though, is the fact that you can carry your character through like the first 3 games, right?
How it works exactly is when you beat Arc the Lad 1, you convert your data to Arc the Lad 2, and while you have a new cast of characters in Arc 2, they eventually join up with the Arc 1 team slowly over time, like getting more of them back with you in the game's narrative, and all your levels and items and equipment that you worked on them in the original game comes to Arc the Lad 2. And on top of that, you get bonus scenes with those characters because
awesome.
you beat the first game. On top of that, and another really cool thing is if you did like a secret dungeon to get the secret character Choco, you not only get her back in the second game, but you do this whole major side quest with her that makes her even more powerful in the second game, which really helps because there is an incredible difficulty spike, like 3/4 into the game, to the point where you're like, what in the world? Like, how did this start getting really difficult? Because the difficulty is pretty well paced. Like, if you know JRPGs well enough, you'll get through it just fine. Then when you get to the last 3/4 of Arc 2, it's like, oh man, what is going on here? Like, I feel like I need to grind or something now. But it's mostly just knowing your equipment and which characters are best to use and something like that. Because you can always pick your characters that you want to use before you start like a dungeon or a major battle. So as long as you have an idea of what to do, you can succeed through it. But especially with people who like JRPGs on this channel and want to have like try a form of tactical game. I mean, Arc the Lad is definitely the way to go. That is, I mean, everything about it's solid. It's like $5 on the PSN for PS3 and PS Vita. So if you own one of those two, you can. They're $5 each, so it's like $10 for like the whole ensemble. The first game is only like 10 hours long, but the second game is 50 hours long. So it all works out.
Your money's worth, yeah.
Yeah. But I do highly suggest that you do as much as you can in the first game. Like, get the good equipment that's offered and get the secret character. Then go to Arc 2, because you will have a lot of powerful equipment that will really help you through the game.
Yeah. I still got to check that out. I've got the 3 games, and I just have to sit down one day and get through them, but we'll have to see. For me, there's a couple of games I thought of, and probably, if I had to be honest, my favorite is the stereotypical Final Fantasy Tactics. I think that's obvious. It's just a phenomenal game. The gameplay has some issues, but it's pretty good. The story's great. The music's great. And
one of the best stories, easily.
Yeah, and it's. I think that was the first game that really introduced me to that style of play, where it's just like very, very strategic, and you have these very long battles, but it's very gratifying if you win. And there's so many different types of classes, and just this idea that, like, when your characters die, you have basically 3 turns to get to them before they're just permanently gone. It was just a very interesting concept to me that I hadn't really approached before. So I think for that reason, like, I really like that game a lot. But I mean, there's been some other games like the Disgaea series, specifically Hour of Darkness on PS2. I put a lot of time into that game. And the story's not particularly fantastic, but from a gameplay perspective, I mean, there's just so much to get into, because there's so many different things you're trying to upgrade from your evil or monster rank to, like, there's a whole item world where you can just like test out your skills and see how far you can go, and revisiting all these old battles and just like all these equipment options, and there's just a lot of fun to have in that series. So I really enjoy that. One recent game though that I've played and that I streamed on here that I thought was really cool was Stella Deus. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but it came out on the PS2, and it's got the same composer from Final Fantasy Tactics and Final Fantasy 12 and Vagrant Story. I'm trying to remember his name. I'm drawing a blank.
Sakamoto.
Right? That's right. Yeah. But the music sounds just like Final Fantasy Tactics. It's crazy. But it's got a really cool, like, cell shaded art style. And I'm still getting in on the story a little bit. But when I was streaming it, though, Heon's the one that introduced me to this game. And the first boss fight, he was telling me like, oh, this first boss fight is pretty difficult, right? And I thought to myself, okay, Heon's probably exaggerating. It's probably not that bad. You all can go watch the stream. This boss is outrageous. Like, okay, so this first boss fight, right? This character can kill the main hero in one hit. One hit. One hit.
Is it game over?
Game over. Game over. So he's like, Heon's in the chat and he's like, dude, I would run from that guy. And like, I actually got a game over because of it, but I ended up going back, and what I ended up having to do was have like one character like aggro him while this guy like chased him around the map, and I was just like freaked out on every turn. And then the other character was like high up on like a house and like kept having to like snipe him for like 20 minutes, and like it was just like so adrenaline pumping. But like when I beat it, I was like, I'm really gratified that I won that. Like, and so I don't know. It's really good. But the second and third part of his question, he says, you have any favorite entries in the Fire Emblem series? And then how is Three Houses comparing? Eric, since you've played a lot of other Fire Emblem games and you've played Three Houses, what are your thoughts with that?
if I had to pick which one was my favorite or which one I had most impact on, I really did like the Game Boy Advance ones. Sacred Stones was pretty good. I think the one that really solidified my liking for the series is the GameCube one, Path of Radiance.
Heard that from a lot of people.
That one I really enjoyed. Like I was always curious what Fire Emblem is after they brought Marth and Roy into Smash Bros. Melee. And when I got Fire Emblem for the first time, I was like a little off put at first because I wasn't really too big on the strategic element at first, and in the fact that like your characters permanently died. It's just something I've never comprehended before.
Sure.
So it was a little new, but the further I got into those games, I liked the story, and I was willing to learn and teach myself how to play these games. And that ended up really having fun with them because I started learning like it felt like an elaborate form of chess in a way. And looking at it from that perspective, I started really enjoying it. But then I got Path of Radiance for the GameCube, and I'm like, it improves on so many things. Like the story is a lot better. The strategy elements feel a little more mainstream or streamlined comparatively, and I think it hit all those notes very well.
Stan, do you have a favorite Fire Emblem that you've played?
The same. Path of Radiance on the GameCube. I played Sacred Stones on the GBA.
That's the one I played.
Yeah. I was just kind of borrowing it. I didn't actually own it myself, so I didn't get to play very much. But yeah, Path of Radiance on the GameCube. That was really excellent game. Everything Eric just mentioned, like I agree with. Good gameplay. Really nice art, like the character arts, and even though they are like, the dialogue is, 2D character model on this side, 2D character model on this side. They talk to each other. One model goes away, another comes back. So it's not very dynamic. It's very what do you call it? Like
Tales.
Yeah, I guess kind of like those little skits they have.
They got the
right?
little character bus, and it's just like yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of similar to that. That's like all the cutscenes, and there's no voice acting, though. Maybe that is a good thing. Looking back, knowing the relative quality of voice acting from that time, right? Maybe it actually holds up a little better today because there was no voice acting. But
maybe that's a plus.
Yeah, and really good gameplay. The only thing I wish was different about the Fire Emblem series, just in general, is the player turn, enemy turn aspect of it. So it's like you move all your troops or hit end turn, and whenever you do that, then the enemy gets to go.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. Like,
yeah,
I think that's
like, okay, I think that's just a little easier, like, to understand conceptually, like for new players. And so because of that, they've always just stuck with it. But it doesn't really make sense that like the enemy soldier can be on this one square, and then like I can move like 5 people to all move up to him and just like smash him before he has a chance to even move.
Yeah.
Like that doesn't really make sense in like real combat, like
you
abstract
think, like,
way. But
if one guy hits that guy, right, suddenly it would be his turn. Like he's like gonna run.
Yeah, like Final Fantasy Tactics is a better system, I feel. Now, I'm not saying like Fire Emblem is bad for having this. It's just a personal preference thing. I prefer it when the faster characters go first, but it's like comparing all troops on the field.
It goes back to what I'm saying about the chess aspect. Like you move one person, another person moves, and you're like, oh, now I can take this character and get behind him since he just moved. So I do agree. I think Fire Emblem would be better that way. Though, I mean,
but at this point,
this is the way it is.
It's been this way for so long. It's just like another thing that's unique to Fire Emblem. I think most games actually do it Final Fantasy Tactics style, where you have just the fastest characters all go first, basically.
Now, the Fire Emblem's credit, when you attack a troop or an enemy, they have the right to try to hit you back.
Yeah, that's good. That at least gives it a little bit of a back and forth feel. Yeah.
Yeah, or vice versa. Enemy hits you, then you hit him, type of deal. So there is at least that.
Yeah, that's good.
The only Fire Emblem game that I've toyed around with, like a NES one, just to see what it was like, and then one on the Super Nintendo, I think. I don't remember. Anyways, it was like just to test an emulator, so it's not really anything to talk about. But the only one I've actually like played was the one Sacred Stones, and I actually really like that one. But I have to say that comparatively, I am enjoying Fire Emblem Three Houses more so, and I think it's just because it's the console experience that just goes a long way in presenting the story and getting attached to the characters, and like the combat, it's a little more engaging. And I don't know, I talked for a half hour at the beginning of this podcast why I like Three Houses, but
Yeah.
I really like it. So but Erica, is there how is Three Houses thus far for you comparing to some of these other games you played? I know you haven't beat the game, so it's hard to really rank it, but do you think it's gonna place somewhere in the top tier for you with Fire Emblem thus far, or do you think it's gonna be more like a mid tier? Or
I think it'll be better than Fates, but not better than Awakening. And I put like Path of Radiance up top, and then the Game Boy Advance ones, and then the 3DS ones. Like, I really did enjoy Awakening. Also, but
I've heard
if
some
I want to
people say
give,
Awakening was the best, and I've seen some going back and forth on that.
I'll say another really good one was actually a remake, Shadow Dragon for the DS. That's a really good remake of the first Fire Emblem game that came out on Famicom a long time ago.
Yeah.
So if you want like the first game like to know, and you don't want to, obviously get like a translated ROM of a really old game that doesn't look that great anymore. I mean, this is a great remake of it, and I highly recommend it if you want to know the roots of the series. It is the one with Marth in it. The pretty much like the OG Fire Emblem character.
Very cool.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and then Stan, you'll have to eventually hit Three Houses and let us know how you think. But
yeah, someday.
You must go spend $60 right now.
I did already though, and I gave it away.
Do it again. And do it right this time.
Yeah. But anyways, so I think that about wraps it up. Please ask some questions in Discord. That way we have something to talk about next week. And other than that, I guess we'll see you all next week. So any final thoughts, guys?
No, sounds good.
See you E3 2020.
Yep. Hit us up.
We'll have a podcast before that, but yeah.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
Yeah, just hit us up with some questions and we'll see you next week.
All right. Stay easy.
Sure.